Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about Companion. In addition to that, we also have got an On the Horizon segment where we're talking about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we've got quite a few news stories and trailers to go over as well. So let's get started with our On the Horizon segment.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon, as I said, is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to start things off with Big Mouth, which is returning on Friday, February 23rd on Netflix for its final season. Fear Street Prom Queen, also coming on Friday, May 23rd on Netflix. All of these, by the way, are coming on Friday, May 23rd. It's a busy day. Fountain of Youth is coming to Apple TV Plus on Friday, May 23rd as well. That is if you don't remember it, that's the Guy Ritchie directed movie with John Krasinski and Natalie Portman that's kind of like a national treasure, but with like Jim from The Office.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, that's coming to Apple TV Plus on Friday, May 23rd. The live-action Lilo and Stitch movie is also coming on Friday, May 23rd to theaters. And Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is coming on Friday, May 23rd to theaters. I just found out recently that's something like 30 years since the first Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, like the first Mission Impossible came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
That is insane to think about.
I think it's 96, so it's like just shy of 30 years. It's like 29 years, basically. Since the first Mission Impossible. It makes you always wonder, why didn't they just delay it? Because this is supposed to be the final Mission Impossible movie. Could have put this out next year. Right on your anniversary, you know? But nobody respects anniversaries.
Nobody respects anniversaries anymore.
Except Nintendo, and only for Mario. But that is it for our On the Horizon segment, and now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment, and we're going to start things with Kristen Stewart, Oscar Isaac, and Elizabeth Olsen are set to star in an 80s vampire movie called Flesh of the Gods that comes from Panos Cosmatos, who did the movie Mandy, and Kevin Walker is writing the script. He wrote the script for Seven.
Oh, okay. So good hands.
Yeah, this is, good director, good screenwriter, great cast, and then it takes place in the 80s. It's a vampire movie, and Elizabeth Olsen plays a vampire called the Nameless. That's just, I'm sold.
I'm sold. I'm there. She plays a vampire called Mommy.
Yeah. Elizabeth Olsen is the mommy vampire. To beat all mommy vampires, you know?
Beat all mommy, yeah, exactly.
What's the one from Resident Evil 8?
Lady Dimas. I can't pronounce that name.
She was the reigning mommy vampire, but no more. Elizabeth Olsen has taken the crown. We say without having seen even a trailer or
right, without having seen like even a screenshot. It just is. Sorry.
Our next news story, Amy Poehler is going to be reuniting with Mike Schur. For those of you who don't know, the two of them worked together on Parks and Recreation, Amy Poehler being obviously the star of Parks and Recreation, and Mike Schur being the writer, who also went on to do like The Good Place and a bunch of other stuff that he's worked on since then. But the two of them are going to be reuniting for a comedy series called Dig. It's based on a book called Excavations, and it's about an archaeological find that could rewrite history. It's still going to be a comedy series, even though the premise sounds like it's not. It's going to be a comedy series. And it's also being produced and written by J.J. Philbin, who is Mike Schur's wife and is the writer on Only Murders in the Building. The two of them met working on SNL together. So they're reuniting. This is the first time they've worked together since SNL. And Amy Poehler was obviously on SNL too, so it's like the three of them, basically, an SNL crew working together. Yeah, all three of them are producing and writing, and Poehler is going to star. So this is great news for anybody that's like a Parks and Recreation fan, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, this is fantastic news for fans of Mike Schur and Parks and Recreation. again, this is Amy Poehler reuniting with Mike Schur in a long time, so it's very promising.
Yeah, and it's also, I like that it has this high concept of this idea of it's an archaeological dig and it could rewrite history and stuff. It makes it feel like even though he's teaming up with Amy Poehler again, it seems more in the vein of like The Good Place in the sense that it's like a high concept with like a running storyline in the background, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which was great because The Good Place was a fantastic show. So I really dig that it kind of feels like it's kind of in that vein, in that sense, that it's going to have like a plot, because Mike Schur kind of proved that he could do that he could kind of keep an interesting mystery plot going at the same time as he's delivering like a really funny comedy.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Our next news story, Krysten Ritter is going to be reprising Jessica Jones in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again.
You know what? I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, kind of figured that they would start doing that they would start bringing in more of the Defenders.
It's like a worst kept secret. You know, we talked about Daredevil Born Again. There was a time when Karen came back and it was like a car stopped and it's like, who's that? And then a woman got out of the car.
And you thought it was going to be Krysten
I thought it was
Ritter.
Krysten Ritter because there had been rumors for a while that she was coming back in Born Again. So this is just now official.
You know what? I don't think like she's the other one. I think we're going to get Luke Cage and Iron Fist in season 2. I think this is just the first announcement.
I think we'll probably get Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want the stink of Iron Fist.
I don't know. I don't know what they have planned, but I'm really happy to see Krysten Ritter back as this character. I loved her interpretation of Jessica Jones, even though like I felt Jessica Jones as a series beyond the first season. The first season was really good, but then like the other 2 seasons were fairly weak. I always thought like
season 2 had ups and downs. Like season 2 had high points and low points. Season 1 was really good.
Season 1 was really good. I just thought like her, Krysten Ritter, her interpretation of the character was like always the highlight. So happy to see her come back.
Yeah, definitely. And then our last news story before we get to the trailers in this segment, we have a new edition of This Week in Zaslav. Exciting news. So you know the
exciting news,
Max, right?
Yeah, that's the one with those reality TV shows.
Remember how it used to be called HBO Max?
HBO Max? I haven't heard of that in ages.
Well, guess what? Max is HBO Max again.
What? This changes everything.
And by everything, you mean nothing.
Exactly. This is like the dumbest
it's just going to confuse the user base.
Yes.
It's so stupid. I mean, this goes in line with the bad moves by Warner Brothers and how they handled HBO moving towards streaming services from the very beginning. Because first they had just HBO, the terrestrial channels, and they had like all the various ones, HBO East, HBO Latino, HBO whatever. They had all these, if you got a cable package, you had like 30 HBO channels. And then they said, okay, we need some kind of a streaming service, but we don't want to like cause an issue with our partners in the cable companies that are going to be upset if we go to a streaming service only like everybody else is. And we have such a good relationship with like Comcast and, you know, all these other cable companies. We can't like jeopardize that. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something where you can use your cable credentials to like stream stuff. And so they created a service called HBO Go. And basically you could go in and you could use your login credentials from having the terrestrial HBO channels. Like you'd literally put in your email account from your cable company and then select your cable company and put in your password and it would let you watch stuff through streaming. You know, you could also watch through on-demand channels and everything else, or you could just watch any of the terrestrial channels, but that was the only way you could get HBO Go. And then they started offering HBO Go as something you could just stream for streamers only, but they only did that in like test markets, like in other countries and stuff, where HBO wasn't really like a thing. And so they tried it in a few test markets and stuff, and then they said, okay, well, let's make just a straight-up streaming service now that has all of our content on it. And so then they made HBO Max. Now, the problem is that they had HBO Max and HBO Go at the same time, which was just confusing and caused all sorts of issues. And then for no reason at all, when HBO merged with, or when Warner Brothers, I guess, merged with Discovery, and when Zaslav took over, they said, well, let's just take the HBO off of the name and just call it Max. Because that way we can put the focus on all the reality stuff that I make. Instead of all that high-cost, expensive, high-profile HBO content that nobody cares about. And so he HBO to HBO Max and just made it Max. And now he's reversing that decision because he's realized how dumb that decision was. But now it's dumb to reverse the decision because everybody got used to Max now.
Yeah, so now, like, people gotta get used to HBO Max again.
Yeah, it's just a branding nightmare. If they're gonna change it back, they should have just changed it to HBO.
I agree.
Just get rid of the Max, just make it HBO. I don't care if it's also the name of the channel. It doesn't matter. Just call it HBO.
Just leave it HBO Max now. Like, don't touch it again.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they will.
Just another example of David Zaslav proving time and time again that he has no idea what the fuck he's doing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, the scourge of media continues to ruin his own brand. But that's it for this week in Zaslav. Now we're going to move on to the trailer segment of our news segment. We've got 4 trailers to go over. There are quite a few new trailers that came out this month, or this week, but we cropped it down to just 4. And we're going to start with Nobody 2, the sequel to the Bob Odenkirk John Wick, but he's old family man.
It's a family man, yeah. I'm going to be honest, this one looks better than the first one.
Oh, I think so too.
I like the idea that they're obviously like riffing on National Lampoon's Vacation.
With the song and everything, yeah.
Yeah, with the song with this one, yeah. Except it's an action movie.
Yeah.
And Bob Odenkirk's like, don't fuck with my vacation.
It's basically him getting into a situation with some like local organized crime thing because he just can't control his temper when one of his kids gets picked on. And then it just spirals out of control and now he's in a whole issue.
Yeah, he's in like a whole thing now. Yeah, he's involved in this whole thing. Like, it's a great premise. It's a great setup for a sequel. I enjoyed the first one. You know, like, I didn't enjoy it, like, as much as, like, John Wick or anything, but I thought it was perfectly fine. I think this has the potential to be better. I think, there are a lot of film franchises where the sequel one-ups the original. This could potentially do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first one, the whole John Wick-like genre wasn't really a thing. Like, this was kind of like the first non-John Wick thing to do the John Wick thing.
Right.
And so it was kind of setting itself up the same way John Wick set it up. But now, that's such an established thing. I mean, we had a whole thing called, like, the Baba Yaga effect, where we would do a podcast where we would talk about a John Wick movie and then one of, like, the John Wick likes, you know?
I think we covered the original Nobody as part of that series.
We did.
Yes.
I think for the first one. I think we did.
Yeah, for the first, yeah.
And Nobody was like the first John Wick-like, basically, besides John Wick. But now it's been so established that people have done like comedies with it, all these other things, and you have Bob Odenkirk, so it's like naturally lends to comedy. So you have something that just looks a lot more interesting, a lot more fun than the original Nobody did.
Exactly.
So yeah, it looks cool. Looks like it's going to be a really fun, funny comedy action movie in a John Wick-like. Nobody was good, but this looks better. I agree. Next, we got a trailer for Ironheart. This is the TV series that's basically a spin-off of Wakanda Forever, the second Black Panther movie, which introduced the character of, it's Rory Williams, right? Rory Williams?
Riri Williams.
Riri Williams. Okay.
Yeah.
And it introduced her character in Wakanda Forever, and then this is going to be like a TV show that focuses on her character. She's kind of like the successor to Iron Man, I guess. What did you think of this trailer?
This certainly looked like a Marvel Disney Plus TV show.
It had a lot of, at least in the trailer, it had a lot of like Ryan Coogler-isms to it, you know? The soundtrack, the way, the kind of music that was being used, some of the kind of like lines in the trailer and stuff really felt like Ryan Coogler
is involved in this outside being a producer.
Yeah, I don't think he's running it or anything or directing it, but he did like create it, I think. And then he just hired
He introduced like the character because he was the director of Wakanda Forever. Character was introduced.
Oversaw this. He didn't run it, but he like oversaw it. He was like J.J. Abrams in Lost.
Right.
You know?
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's like Lost was really, if you want to find who was responsible for Lost, it was Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, but J.J. Abrams' name is all over it, and he was heavily involved at the beginning before handing it off, you know? And that seems to be the case here too, that he kind of helped set it up and then kind of stepped aside and let somebody else run it.
Yeah. His title for Ironheart, he's executive producer.
Mm-hmm.
He's also an executive producer for the upcoming miniseries Eyes of Wakanda, which I think is animated. I think that's
I've heard
that
was
animated.
Supposed to be live action, then it was animated. Now it might not even be around anymore. Is that the one?
No, it's still happening.
There was a Wakanda series, I think, that like is now rumored to be gone.
Wikipedia is saying it's animated. It's Marvel Studios animation. So yeah, that's animated. So yeah, he's executive producer on Ironheart.
Thing is that Riri Williams was probably the worst part of Wakanda Forever.
It wasn't. It was just because like she felt like very much just tacked onto the movie to be like, oh, watch out for her series we're making coming soon. It really felt like she wasn't like a natural part of the narrative for that movie. They shoehorned in like a reason they needed like her to be involved.
Yeah. And that didn't do her any favors, as far as like interest in her character.
No, it was the thing like Marvel like does constantly that drives me up the wall is like just putting stuff in movies and stuff as just lead-ins for other things. They started doing that with Iron Man too, with Black Widow being in it and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like
Avengers Age of Ultron with the whole like Thor departing because he knew like Ragnarok was coming or whatever, and they had that.
Yeah.
That was like famously that Joss Whedon like really did not want to have in the movie and had to like make a compromise with Marvel.
Right. Oh yeah. It's like that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's not a great look on them when they do stuff like that, and it wasn't a great look on Wakanda Forever. It was kind of just a distraction more than anything. The series itself, I think there's things about it that I've heard that you don't even necessarily see in the trailer, but that I've heard about it that sound more interesting than anything I saw in the trailer.
Well, it looks like
the character that looks like the villain in this is tied into magic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Hood. He's a Marvel villain who's basically just like a normal guy, but he got like this hood that is infused with like some demonic magic or whatever. He uses it to become one of the top crime lords of New York City. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he is definitely in this. I mean, that character is definitely the Hood. So it looks like he's going to be the series' main villain.
Yeah. And so that's interesting because of the magic connection. Because it's like, okay, so you're going to do like, you got kind of a little bit of the Iron Man stuff going on because it's Ironheart. And then you have a little bit of the Wakanda stuff going on because that's where Riri was introduced. And then you also have this kind of like the magic side of the Marvel coming into play here. And there was lots of rumors about Doom possibly being attached to him. And like, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is going to show up in this series, but
100%
maybe we'll get a reference to him or something, or like a vague hint or something. There's also been rumors, as there is for every Marvel TV series, it seems seemingly, about a certain demonic character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I saw, like, supposedly, this is where we see Mephisto, and I saw some leak. I think this is it. I think this is where we saw Mephisto, and it's Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah. There's, like, lots of stuff like that, where it's like, is that gonna be really interesting? Because I like the idea of that, of like, okay, so it's kind of, if it's Ironheart, and she's the main character, and she's tech-focused, and then you have the main villain, and he's magic-focused, you have, like, tech versus magic, and it's these different sides of the Marvel Universe, and that's really interesting. I watched the trailer, I get none of that.
Right.
Like, everything that interested me about the series is not in this trailer.
Right, yeah, it's just like boilerplate. Again, it just, this trailer makes it look like it's paint by numbers Marvel show where
it's like Echo. It's like the really like who gives a shit Marvel show like Echo was. And then it's like they added a Ryan Coogler filter. It's like you go on Instagram or something and you have like your picture and then you add like the filter to it or something. It's like they said, okay, we have our boilerplate basic bitch MCU show. Here's our footage. Now let's like apply a Ryan Coogler filter to it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that people like think Wakanda Forever. They think about Black Panther when they see the trailer. And it's like, even though it doesn't really seem like maybe none of that's really relevant in anything that's going on, but it's just like a hint of it or something to like make you think it. Kind of like in the way they tricked us into thinking Secret Invasion was going to be like Winter Soldier.
Right, yeah. I thought like Secret Invasion was going to be like this really intense spy thriller, and
because they put out the trailer and they attached the Winter Soldier filter.
Yeah, they attached exactly.
And then they did it again with Brave New World, and
definitely not that.
So yeah, I think I'm with you. This just does not look good. Like, it's everything that interested me about it was not in this trailer.
Right, yeah, exactly. And like, hopefully future trailers spotlight what makes this more interesting.
Or just the show itself ends up actually being interesting, and not just generic.
Well, I hope it's not just generic.
Yeah. We'll have to see. Like, it's hard to trust Marvel, especially Marvel TV these days.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because the Marvel television side has been like such a mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, you got your, WandaVision and Agatha Long and Loki, and then you have Echo. And
What Ifs.
And Secret Invasion.
And Secret Invasions, yeah, exactly.
And as we've mentioned, like Ms. Marvel, It started out really good with all the
Mixed
family
Marvel,
stuff,
like,
and
has...
then went to hell when they tried to put a Marvel story into it.
Right. When they tried to, like, have her be, like, a superhero, that's, like, where that all went to hell.
Yeah.
For some... Because they just couldn't make it interesting. They couldn't... I don't know, man. Yeah.
They could have just left it as a family drama/comedy, and it would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been great. The family stuff was the best part of that show.
Yeah, but it's Marvel's such a mixed bag with TV, and then they've just been a mixed bag period recently. So it's and then there's also, it's a bad sign. Apparently they're releasing this in 2 blocks, and so instead of week to week like they've been doing with their other shows, they're just kind of dumping it all at once, and then the other half all at once or something.
Really, that's like a really stupid thing to do. I don't know why.
They kind of did that with Echo, where they released Echo over the course of like a week or something, and they've done that with What If too. And so it's not a good sign. It's almost like every show they've done that for has been like a stinker, basically.
Right, yeah, because like they don't anticipate people are going to be like on the edge of their seats week to week, normal, or like what? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's just not a great sign, you know? I mean, who knows? It could be great. We don't know, but it's just not a great sign. The trailer wasn't good, and then you hear about stuff like that, and it's like, I don't know. It's not looking great.
Nope.
But talking about something that is looking great, another TV series on the rival side, DC.
On the rival side, yeah. On the DC side of things.
You got Peacemaker Season 2.
Yeah. Again, looks like a lot of fun. It's more Peacemaker.
Yeah.
I really love the opening scene where he's auditioning for the Justice League International. You have Maxwell Lord there with Hawkgirl and Green Lantern.
Yeah,
and
you got the Green Lantern that's going to be in Superman, the Nathan Fillion Green Lantern.
Yeah, Guy Gardner.
Yeah.
They're all going to be in Superman. Maxwell Lord, Hawkgirl, and Guy Gardner are all in Superman. It was funny, like, he's auditioning, and, like, he can hear them, Peacemaker can. Even after they turn off their mic, he can still hear them. And they're, like, talking shit. And, you know, Maxwell Lord's just like, this guy sucks.
Maxwell Lord, by the way, in Wonder Woman 1984 was played by Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
And here he's being played by James Gunn's brother.
Yes. In the new DCU, he's played by James Gunn's brother. It was interesting because a while back, James Gunn announced that Sean Gunn was going to appear in Superman in an unnamed role, and the only hint James Gunn would give at the time was that it wasn't going to be either of his roles in Creature Commandos.
Yeah, or the Suicide Squad, yeah.
Yeah, because Sean Gunn is Weasel, and he's also like G.I. Robot. And it turns out the character Sean Gunn is playing in the DCU is Maxwell Lord.
Kind of a shame. I was hoping Weasel would pop up too.
Weasel can still pop up. Weasel can still pop up.
Weasel was funny in the Suicide Squad, and he was great in Creature Commandos.
He was great. Yeah, they did like a really like great things with that character. But that was funny. Other interesting things from the Peacemaker trailer was like just seeing the old gang back together, and then we got like a glimpse of what was maybe the season's villain, Michael Rooker, as like some mystic. You know, he's just sitting there with this energy overflowing over him, and then we get a moment at the end of the trailer where Peacemaker runs into himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe multiverse shenanigans, maybe something else, we don't know.
Also, we got our first confirmation of Rick Flag Senior. He is going.
They might just call it the Rick Flag Senior Connected Universe, because
yeah.
Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 2, Superman.
He's everywhere.
Yeah. He's popping up more than Amanda Waller.
Yeah, he's popping up more than Amanda Waller. Yeah, his goal in Peacemaker Season 2 seems to be he's gunning for Peacemaker because obviously Peacemaker killed his son.
Mm-hmm. All looks very good. Peacemaker was fantastic, so I'm super hyped for Season 2. And it's also how it ties into, like, the new James Gunn DC universe and stuff is going to be really interesting to see. Because this is a legacy, because Peacemaker itself was part of the old DCEU, and now it's also going to be part of the new DCU, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that navigates.
It's kind of like a bridge, right?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, they showed the 2 Peacemakers. Maybe that's it. Maybe they're doing some kind of multiverse thing.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what they end up choosing to do with that, but it's really cool.
Maybe DCU Peacemaker kills the DCEU Peacemaker and just continues on like nothing happened.
Could be.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we got a trailer for Superman. This is our second full trailer for Superman.
Yep, this came out today. This is actually, this is the first full trailer. The last one was a teaser.
Yeah,
the last one was like more of a teaser. Yes.
I was just thinking there have been other things. There was like a clip and some other stuff, you know.
There's been clips, yeah, but there hasn't been like this was definitely more substantial. We got like more context for what's happening, you know, like in the original like teasers, you saw shots of Superman being persecuted, people being upset with Superman, and you're kind of like, oh, you know, what happened there? And apparently you get more context. I love the framing of this trailer, by the way. Can I just say framing it through like Lois Lane doing an interview with Superman, you know? Because she's explaining there was a war going on in a foreign country. Superman intervened to save lives, and apparently this violated international law. This was, the United States is not happy about it. You know, and Superman's in his defense saying, you know, I'm not acting as an agent of the United States. I'm acting as Superman, and I'm doing it to save people.
People are going to die. Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently this is a big issue. So that's why you got government after Superman all of a sudden. So that's interesting. And then you got like a bunch of cool shots.
We got to see some of the performance of Lex Luthor by Nicholas Hoult. Like, we just seen him before, but now we actually got bits of his performance in this.
You get to see like his like pure hatred for Superman, right?
His disdain and just dismissal of him, you know?
And I just he's
not a man, he's an it.
Yeah, Superman. He's not a man, he's an it. His delivery, his line delivery is just, oh my word, that's perfect.
Yeah. Just hostility just seeping out everywhere. And you see more of like basically all the characters you saw before in pretty small, quick shots and stuff. Got to see Rick Flag Sr. again.
Yep, got to see Rick Flag Sr. Got to see the architect for the first time. Which I don't believe she's been in any of the prior teasers or trailers, so that's cool.
Is she the one that was wrecking up the robots at his Fortress of Solitude?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering, because we also have the guy from Barry that's he's playing, is it Meta something?
Oh, the engineer. I'm sorry. Her name's the engineer. I knew I messed that up. So I had to look it up. I knew I messed that up.
Who's the other guy I'm trying to think of? The guy played by Anthony Carrigan.
Oh, yeah, Metamorpho. Okay.
Yeah, Metamorpho. We saw him in the first trailer, but we see a little bit more of him here.
Which I think he's also like a member of Maxwell Lord's Justice League, which we see in this trailer. We see more of them in this trailer. We see more of Hawkgirl and Green Lantern and, you know, Guy Gardner version and Mr. Terrific. I think Metamorpho, and I think those are like Maxwell Lord's superheroes.
Mr. Terrific looks really cool.
He does.
Like, they finally did him justice, like looks-wise at least.
Yes, look-wise they did perfect in this. Yeah, we got to see cool scene. Like the engineer fighting Crypto.
Yeah, wrecking up Superman's robots.
Wrecking up Superman's robots.
We had a whole clips that came out before where we got to meet his robots at his Fortress of Solitude and stuff, and now seeing her wrecking them up, I'm like, no.
Yeah,
I'm already attached.
I'm already attached. It's like, no, don't destroy his robots.
It's like, I like them more than human characters in most things.
Right?
I've only seen a small clip.
And then, like, ending it with that scene of Crypto sitting on top of Clark.
Yeah. You have a dog?
You have a dog? I don't know. I saw this and I was like, I've never been more giddy watching a trailer for a superhero movie in my life.
I'm just so glad it's not an origin story.
Yeah, same.
That they're just going like, he's in the peak of his career right now, and this is when the movie happens.
Like, everybody knows who he is.
Lois already knows who he is. There's no, like, hiding his secret from her. They already know each other.
Yeah, they already know each other.
We're already past the will they, won't they. We're already past the will she find out who he is. Like, all that garbage is out of the way. We don't have to think about it. It's just, we're jumping in the middle of his career.
Lex Luthor already knows him, is already in the middle of, like, his hate crusade against him.
Yeah, we can just get into it. We don't have to, like, suffer through setting everything up again.
Right,
I really love that. And I love that what that means is that we don't have to go like, oh, there's a Superman. How does that change the world thing that we've had in every Superman movie? It's like, no, there's like giant kaiju monsters and shit. Like, right off the bat,
giant robots. Yeah, there's like cool stuff for Superman to fight. Superman's going to be doing cool Superman stuff.
From moment one, he's not going to be trying to learn how to fly for like, half the movie.
Right, yeah.
It's just straight up jumping into like shit going on. So I really dig that. I think that's probably the aspect that I'm most excited for the DCU as a whole. Like that, because they're going in the middle of everything happening rather than trying to start everything from scratch, going like, okay, this is a normal world. Now let's introduce these little elements. It's like, no, it's all there. It's all already there. And because of that, we're getting stuff like a cosmic Supergirl movie with like Lobo in it. And it's like things that you just would have expected otherwise.
Things that you wouldn't expect for like the first phase of like the superhero,
and when they do the Batman movie, it's going to be with Batman and Damian Wayne, It's like, yes, give us that,
Yeah, give us that. Yeah, exactly. I think it's smart. They need to do that. It was definitely like, don't just rehash the stuff we've seen a million times.
Yeah.
We've seen, like when you're doing Batman, I love that it's Batman with Damian Wayne. I love it's Batman at that point in his career where we don't have to go over the fact that Bruce Wayne's parents were shot again.
Exactly. I love that. I love that it's cosmic Supergirl.
Yes.
All these things are like, that's, I think, the most exciting thing about the DCU. So I can't wait to see more of it. We got our first taste of the DCU with Creature Commandos. It was excellent. Loved it. Yeah, let's get some more.
100%.
That is it for our On Beat segment, and that leaves only full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are going to be talking about Companion in full spoilers. So Companion was originally supposed to be the next directorial movie by Zach Krigler, who did Barbarian, but he ended up deciding not to direct it, not to make it his next project, so he passed it off to his friend, Drew Hancock, and stayed on board as the producer, but gave this as Drew Hancock's directorial debut.
Yeah, so Drew Hancock was the writer and director on this project. This isn't the next Zach Krigler movie.
That's
going to be Weapons, which looks very special. But yeah, this was a fun movie. It's a fun concept that they do really well. It's almost like a bubble episode of a show because it's all set in one location. And they don't really leave that location.
Oh, it was nice doing the show notes for this episode of the podcast because there aren't that many characters. I didn't have to make a list of 50 characters.
There's 4 main characters and then there's 3 side characters.
There's 6 real characters and every other character outside of that might as well not even have a name.
Right.
So that was convenient for me. This isn't as good as Barbarian. Let's just say that right off the bat. This is not as good. That's probably why Zach Krigler decided not to do this as the second movie.
I mean, this isn't going to shock you. There's no real twists in it. It's not like if you're looking for a twist.
The twist is in the trailer.
Yeah, the twist was in the trailer. Yeah, exactly. It's like
there's one other aspect to twist. There is one other kind of semi-surprise, and that's there is another character that's a robot.
Yeah, there's another companion, right, who becomes important to the plot. Yeah, that becomes important to the plot. So there is a semi, okay, that guy's not real too. But it's kind of after that, it pretty much goes how you expect it to go.
It makes me wonder if I didn't know, if it wasn't in the trailer, if it wasn't obvious what was going on from the trailer, how would I have picked up on the clues that were there? Because obviously we can't know because we knew already, So it's we could say, I would have figured it out, but you don't know, that you would have figured it out right away.
I think you're supposed
how it
to
would
know.
have had the impact.
I think you're supposed to know going in though, so it's kind of I don't know.
Because there are cool things that feel like setups for if you don't know.
Right.
Like the whole weather report thing, where he asks her what's the weather, and she goes it's 72 degrees and sunny or something.
But that's after he tells her she's a robot though.
No, they do that twice. It's a follow-up.
Did they do it once? Okay.
Yeah, because they did it when they first woke up after they had sex, and then it showed him showering or whatever, and then she was standing outside looking over the balcony, and he asked what's the weather, and she said it, and he said that never gets old. And the way it's played up is she did it like a joke,
right?
And he thought it was funny, but then the real truth is that she just literally went into robot mode and regurgitated information.
Right, yeah, she just as command. Really interesting setup. Jack Quaid plays a scumbag in this, surprise. Well, I noticed none of the characters in this are in a real relationship, right? Nobody's in a real relationship. There are 5 people, the
closest would be Eli and Patrick.
Right.
One of them is the companion, and that's the closest to a real relationship.
Iris and Jack Quaid character,
Josh.
Josh. Iris is a companion. And you think Eli and Patrick are a real couple, right? And you think they're and one of the tricks is, before you know, is you think they're contrasting that, like an actual real couple with like Josh and Iris, like, oh, that's a contrast. But no, like Patrick's a companion too, so that's not a real relationship. That turns out to be totally fake.
But like I said, it's still the closest to a real relationship because they both actually care about each other to the point where it becomes a plot point that they actually
It becomes a plot point. But that's not a real relationship. And then the one woman there, like, she's shacked up with, like,
Kat.
the Russian... Yeah, Kat. She's shacked up with Sergey, who's just using her, like, as like a
and
toy.
She's using him. He's married.
And she's using him. So that's not a real relationship. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how, like, there's no, like, real emotional human-to-human connection between anybody in this movie.
Like I said, the closest is Eli and Patrick.
Which I think, like, that's obviously intentional to, like, kind of set the tone. To like say everybody is kind of fake, like even the humans are in this are fake.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say that Josh kind of reminds me of like in the USS Callister, like the one we just watched when we watched the new season of Black Mirror, and they did the sequel to USS Callister, and we had that kind of debate about the character that like had the copy of him that ended up becoming just as much of a monster as his real self was in the first episode. But my point I was making with him is that he's a character that you wouldn't know that he's bad until he's given power or something. And I think they did something similar with Josh, where it's just like he's a self-pitying kind of guy, but he plays it off in like a fun way where you just think he's like just a fun guy. But then like when you get to the point where he's challenged, and then it becomes like obvious that he's just a shit that just thinks he's owed.
Yeah, he thinks the world owes him something just because.
Yeah.
Like.
And that's not your first impression of him. Your first impression is like, oh, he's kind of funny. He's like,
Yeah, he puts on that
he's a little pathetic, but like in a funny way. So it's like, okay.
He does like, he's basically like this character is written for Jack Quaid, right? Because he puts on that Jack Quaid charm that you see him doing like in a lot of his projects. And so he's kind of quirky, he's kind of funny. And no, he's just a greedy asshole. Well, the whole plot of this thing, the whole thing the action centers around is like Jack and Kat hatch a plot to basically rip off Sergey and like steal his
murder
money.
him. Yeah, murder him and steal his money.
They want to get him out of the picture and take his money. And Josh comes up with the idea to use Iris to actually commit the murder. She's a robot, like it doesn't matter. Like if she kills this guy and she takes the fall for it, it's the perfect plan.
It's debatable who's worse as a person, Josh or Kat. They're both so fucking horrible.
They're both god-awful people.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. They're both in it for the same thing. Kat seems to be surprised that Iris is there, so I don't think, like, Josh ran that by Kat. She doesn't seem to be aware.
No, it was definitely part of the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely part of the plan. She just can't get over, like, she has that moment where Iris talks to her and says, like, do you not like me? And she says, it's not that I don't like you, it's that I don't like the idea of you.
Yeah, she knows what, like, Iris is, obviously, like, so does Eli. Everybody in there knows what Iris is. Like,
yeah.
That's not a secret.
Everybody's got like a different aspect of it though. So like, Patrick obviously being another companion, we find out that later on that he actually knows that he's the robot. He has like,
he like figured it out.
You can see it in it that he has like kind of a kinship to her. It's like one of the clues is that he seems to be a bit more attentive than the other characters to Iris. And then you have Eli, who's obviously actually in love with his robot, Patrick, and he's like sensitive to Iris to an extent. When his own greed catches up, it changes that, but he's more sensitive than the others. Kat fucking hates Iris because she thinks like the idea of Iris makes her feel like replaceable, so she just takes it out on Iris. And Josh is just straight up using her for sex, and Sergey just wants to use her for sex.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So it's like you kind of have these different perspectives on that, the characters and how they connect to Iris and stuff. I think that's an interesting part of the story it's the idea of how you would treat something you consider to be less than yourself.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And you have the characters that treated her the best were probably Eli and Patrick.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Eli and Patrick, they were the ones who definitely like weren't in on it because like after it happens, like Josh tells them what they're doing. And Eli is just like, okay, then why did you invite us? for this. And Josh is like, oh, more witnesses, makes it more credible.
Did the Patrick thing come as a surprise to you?
It did. I'm not going to lie and say yeah, because I wasn't expecting there to be a second companion.
Did you pick up on it before the reveal?
I didn't.
Okay.
I can be honest.
Because I think that was well done if you don't pick up on it before the reveal of the whole thing where where they're talking about the split of the money.
Right.
And he's all, don't you mean a 4-way split? And he's all like, why does he get money? And he's like, well, he doesn't count. And he's like, oh,
Yeah, oh, yeah. Kind of why are we giving a companion money?
Yeah, that's when that comes out, at that moment. It was kind of a cool moment. I think I picked up on it just a little bit before then. And so when it was happening, I'm like, oh, cool, they're going to do the reveal that he's a companion.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so they try to rip off Sergei. Their plan is not just to rip him off, but to kill him and take his money and then basically make it look like Iris malfunction.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a dumb plan. When you finish the movie and you find out certain other details that these characters seemingly didn't know, it shows they didn't really think this plan out that well. It was doomed to fail regardless of what happened, regardless of all the other shit that ended up going wrong in the plan. If they had just successfully completed the plan, they would have gone to jail.
Right, yeah,
They would have
exactly.
been found out, immediately. They did not know what they were fucking doing. Josh and Kat did not think it through. They didn't even know about the stored information and memory and
stuff. No, they didn't know, Josh didn't know, where, the hard drive was. Which is kind of funny because it's almost like a plot hole. Because Josh is smart enough to figure out, or maybe he didn't. Maybe he just found this information on the internet and just followed instructions. He figured out how he can essentially jailbreak the software inside the companion.
Oh, he clearly just followed instructions. He didn't know shit.
Yeah, he didn't know shit.
I think it was pretty obvious that he didn't really know that much shit. They even used clues of they showed the scene where the guy told him about using the fingerprint on the back of the ear, and then that came into play later when he took over Patrick.
Right.
That he had to do that. That was something that he obviously did not know until that moment he was told it.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, everything goes wrong. Iris kills Sergei as they had planned, but then she starts kind of freaking out. Then Josh, I guess, feels he owes it to her to explain the situation to her, which feels less like sympathy and more like reveling in his own brilliance or something.
Right. Yes. He explains, he has to explain it to her and has to explain to her that she's a robot and stuff.
Yeah. And does it in a very insensitive way. There's several moments where he'll just say something kind of laugh or something, and she's going through severe trauma in that moment.
Right. Oh, yeah. And then Kat walks in and very loudly, you haven't deactivated her yet? And then that sends Iris into a panic, fight or flight mode. That's where everything completely goes sideways.
Yeah. And then it just goes into an incidence of rotten luck, I guess, for a lot of characters. And everyone in this friend group but Iris is dead by the end.
Oh, yeah. Iris inadvertently kills Eli during a struggle with the gun. It's funny, Iris doesn't, kill a lot of people in this. Obviously, she kills Sergei, she kills Eli, and she kills Josh at the end. Mm-hmm. Well, Josh, after Eli dies, Josh takes control of Patrick and kind of, uses Patrick as, an enforcer.
Like a personal terminator, yeah.
Yeah, personal terminator, yeah. He turns his aggression up to 100. And then there's a point, where, Josh is arguing with Kat, and Josh, commands Kat to stop, and she just says, I'm not one of your companions, you can't just tell me what to do. And he says, Patrick, make Kat stop. And Patrick, since, his aggression is up to 100, takes that to be oh, kill her. Mm-hmm. And he stabs her, with a knife, with a butcher knife. To Josh's abject horror, because that's not what he wanted Patrick to do.
It really reminded me of that scene in Breaking Bad, where Walt kind of, ended up killing Mike, but Mike wasn't dead yet. And Mike was Walt came up and was, all trying to, explain himself and apologize. And Mike's just leave me the fuck alone. Just let me die in peace,
Right.
Very similar reaction that Kat had.
Yeah.
Where Josh was oh no, what are we gonna do? And Kat's just shut up.
Just shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was her reaction to it. She was basically, oh, son of a bitch, you stabbed me. And Josh is she's just oh, just shut the fuck up, you stupid idiot.
Yeah, just shut up and let me die,
Right, yeah. which I found such a funny reaction.
Yeah. Like I said, it really reminded me of like Mike's reaction to Walt in Breaking Bad when Walt shot him, you know?
Walt is like apologizing to Mike or something profusely, and Mike's just like, just shut up and let me die.
Yeah. Like, you already killed me. Do I really have to like make you feel better about yourself now? Like, go the fuck away. Just leave me in peace.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so Kat dies that way. We already mentioned Eli died in a scuffle with Iris, purely an accident. Iris killed Sergei because it was set up to happen that way. She did it in self-defense, but that was also, they tweaked her programming to like make sure that would happen.
By default, she can't harm anything. Mm-hmm. So again, he used that jailbreak to turn off those protections.
Yeah, I mean, and he also put a knife in her pocket, and like they set everything up so that it would happen.
Because the scene when he's telling Iris to go outside to explore because he was going to be like, doing other things. She goes outside, and then we see him pick up his phone and put the USB stick in it. And he's tapping on some things. We don't get to see exactly what he's doing, but we know he's messing with Iris's controls.
Yeah, and then as part of the plan, Kat had obviously told Sergei that, like, he could have his way with Iris.
Right.
And so Sergei goes in, like, basically thinking Kat he's gonna fuck Iris as, like, a pleasure robot or something. And so he starts attacking her, and then she's defensive because of the programming they put in for her, and she fights back, and that angers him, so he gets more aggressive, she gets more defensive, and as a result, she kills him because Josh put a knife in her pocket that she had access to.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was all set up to happen that way, so you can't really put that on Iris at all, No. Can't really put Eli's on her either. She was trying to run away. They were struggling with a gun. It was purely an accident. She didn't want to kill him.
Right. Again, the only intentional one was Josh.
Yeah, who deserved it.
Yeah. Who didn't know when to give up.
I think that was my one disappointment in the movie, is that they really set up that automatic wine opener, that corkscrew, like that was going to be like this big thing, and it was kind of anticlimactic when they used it to kill Josh. Like it just kind of went, I thought they were going to pop out his eye or something. I thought they were going to do like a big like gross out effect or something.
Yeah, they didn't. It was kind of toned down.
Yeah.
That wine opener was definitely Chekhov's gun.
Yeah. They showed that like 4 or 5 times in the movie.
Right, yeah, exactly.
They kept reminding you how it worked, like over and over again. Like, oh, remember, this automatically drills in and pulls out, something's going to happen with this. But yeah. What did you think of the movie overall, though?
I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was like fun, like very tightly plotted, tightly scripted. Again, this wasn't one of those surprise movies where you're going to be shocked by the twist ending. They tell you the ending in the first minute of the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
She says, like, the day I met Josh and the day I killed him. They say that up front at the beginning of the movie. So there's no twist to it. But it's fine. It works. I thought it was a fun movie. It doesn't try to, like, do more than what it sets out to do.
Yeah, and it's fun. It has there's a good sense of humor to it. It's got some funny moments in it. It's got some, like, genuinely, like, kind of cool little character moments and stuff. I love the way they kept repeating the scene with the first encounter with Eli and Patrick. You're my little boo thing. When Josh took over the programming and, like, inserted him into it, and then the way that came back, like, that was inserted him into it and it was funny. And then when it came back to when Iris was able to kind of get Patrick to remember who he was and remember who Eli was, it was done in, like, a dramatic way, like the replacing Eli with Josh moment in his programming.
Right.
So I liked the way they did that. I think that was clever. I think they were clever with music in general. They did, like, music callbacks twice. They had the "You're my little boo" thing, like, thing from the first encounter with Eli and Patrick, which was a funny moment, but then they also did the thing where they had like the little spontaneous moment where everybody was dancing on the first night, and then how Iris put on that same music when she had come back for Josh to kill him. Right. As like a way of letting him know that it was her and not Patrick that was back, because he had sent Patrick out to kill her and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Really good.
Yeah, I dug it. I thought it was a really cool scene. I love the shot when she shot herself in the head. I thought that was a really cool looking, like, slow motion shot. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was a good movie.
No, that's it. That's all I have to say about it.
I'd be really curious what people would think if they had no idea what it was. Like, how much they would pick up on right away, how much they wouldn't, how it would affect their enjoyment of it. I'm curious, because it's one of those things where it was so obvious going into the movie, just from the trailers and stuff, like what was going on, that there's no way for me to even consider the possibility of how my experience would have been without knowing it,
Right, yeah. And that's like something I didn't think of when I was watching it, but it's interesting to think about now.
Mm-hmm. It's just, I tell people on certain things, like a perfect example is Barbarian. When I tell people about Barbarian, I'm like, do you like kind of avant-garde, interesting, like horror movies that do new things? And they go, yeah. And I'll see Barbarian. They say, what's it about? And I'm like, never mind. Just see it.
Just see it.
Just go in blind. Just watch it. Just take it in.
Right.
And I kind of wonder if this movie could have had that kind of effect or not, because, they did kind of give it away, and not really in the first trailer. The first trailer kind of hinted at it. The second trailer made it very obvious.
It's interesting that, like, the first teaser used a scene from, like, the very end of the film.
Oh, her, like, burning the arm and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very iconic scene, but yeah, like, I was surprised that, that comes at, like, the end of the movie.
Yeah. Very cool scene both in the trailer and in the movie. Like, in the trailer, it was like, oh, what the fuck is this, And
right.
then in the movie, it's like, it just kind of has this, it doesn't have that kind of surprise of, like, cause you know what she is and everything. It's not like anything like that. But at the same time, it has like this emotional weight of like Josh just like showing her how little he gives a shit about her. And
when I was like watching
that's having on her.
Yeah. When I was watching like that initial teaser, I was like wondering about the scenario, right? I was kind of like, okay, so you have this guy, he looks like he's on a dinner date with this woman. She obviously doesn't want to be there because she's handcuffed to the chair, and this guy is like, okay, there's something sinister about this guy already. He's kind of a dick, and now he's like forcing her to burn her hand. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like, is this guy like a serial killer or something? Like, what's happening?
Like, is he like doing some kind of a mind control thing on her or something? Like, yeah, there's a lot of questions from the first like teaser for the movie. By the time the actual trailer came out, like they kind of completely revealed what was going on.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it just makes it kind of interesting to think about what it would be like if you were able to go in blind. Who knows? I mean, sometimes you have those amazing experiences going in blind. Sometimes it just doesn't even matter. Like, like you go in blind and it wouldn't have mattered if you went in blind or not.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The big twist in the Matrix that they aren't in the real world and that it's all simulation was like mind-blowing when I saw that in theaters,
Mm-hmm.
The Tyler Durden twist in Fight Club was something I saw coming pretty early on, and it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie.
Right.
It's like, it can happen both ways, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it for our discussion of Companion. Next week, we haven't decided what we're doing next week. Do you want to do Novocaine?
Sure, let's make it a Jack Quaid twofer.
Yep. We were on the Bill Skarsgård train, and now we're on the Jack Quaid train. So.
Because Jack Quaid has proven to be just as prolific as Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah.
So.
I think he's got 4 movies this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's also in that new movie with John Cena and Idris Elba.
Yeah, that Heads of State, I think.
Heads of State, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's got that, and he's got another movie I think that's already out, but it's like a limited release or something that he also plays a small role in. That's the one with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, where it's like him and some guy, and they're like solving some crime or something.
I'm not going to try and remember what that is, but yes.
He's in that too, so it's like, and then the other two, like I said, are Companion, which we just talked about, and Novocaine, which we're going to talk about next week. So stay tuned next week, and we'll talk about another Jack Quaid performance in Novocaine. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out those same handles on Blue Sky, where we use the same handles there as well. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up the container story to any of our podcast episodes, you'll find all of the relevant links to our social accounts, our RSS feed for the podcast, our SoundCloud page, all that's there. You can also subscribe to the podcast to your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts, and the entire backlog of our podcasts, as well as additional content, is available on our YouTube channel, so check that out as well. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.